Welcome to the Land to Lots podcast, powered by Launch Development Finance Advisors. And now your host, Carter Froelich.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about your concept of habits? And maybe we can touch a little bit on systems and processes too,
Sure.
because this has not only implications for personal growth, but also it's to business growth as well, right? That you do at Lee and Associates in your team, which is stellar. Top producers in Lee and Associates.
Yeah, I'm rock scrub. So what happened was I've read a lot. I've read 300 goal setting books. And one of my rules is set goals, because I believe if you don't have a future, then you're not going to have a direction. So I'm a big goal setter. You can set milestones if you want, it doesn't matter. But what came out of that was reading all these books on goal setting and then being a goal setter for 40 years or longer now.
Yeah.
I found all these books are set your goals and then go execute. So to me, the big rock goals were up there. Everybody can kind of say, this is what I want to do. It's who I want to be. And then there's this execution, which is sand. But there was a huge gap, and I called it the gravel gap. And there's a gap between what your rocks do and what you do on a daily basis with your sand. And so I wrote a whole book on it. It's 190 pages long, and it's all on just this gravel. How do we crush our goals into gravel? And I say, if you don't have clarity, if you don't have direction, if you don't know what your next step is, which is sand, then you haven't spent enough time in the gravel. So
Yep.
we talk about this all the time internally, and I'm with myself. It's like, I need to do more gravel on that. I had a call this morning from my son who's working with me on our software company. He's like, hey, I have this issue. Here's what we're working on, what we're doing. And I'm like, okay, great. Here's the issue, rock. Here's what we know the outcome is. We got to spend some time in the gravel. That's what we do.
Yep.
And so I just pulled this up. And so it's like, people are like, all right, do you live it? So this is my daily tracking sheet. So this is for this month.
Yeah.
1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 page, 5 pages of daily tracking. What I'm tracking, and this is gravel tracking. What am I doing? And it takes me about 5 minutes a day.
Yep.
To see, am I tracking? Am I inside the gravel? Am I doing exactly what? And I can tell you where I'm weak and where I'm strong today on all areas of my life, right here.
Yeah. That's great. And see what I mean, guys? I'm glad we had that on video.
Yeah.
You're an inspiration, Craig. I'm gonna get,
My son says, don't show everybody your goals. It's like, because they're 11 by 17 and they're typed and graphed and all that stuff.
But truly that is the level. You need to know where you're going, and then so you're not wasting time to have done the gravel work. So you're coming in and you know what steps you need to take to get there.
Well, to your point, and we're talking, the audience is a bunch of land development. I mean, what is really interesting to me. So let's talk about land development.
Mm-hmm.
You have this vision. You're going to buy this piece of raw land that no one's ever done anything on. If, let's say, it's not infill.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go in, you're going to design it, you're going to zone it, you're going to actually do the infrastructure on it, you're going to build a lot on it, you're going to then sell it to home builders. That is a process, right? That is gravel. And there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, okay, but in my personal life, I'm going to do none of that.
Right.
And I say no to that.
Yeah.
I say, take that system, because everybody that you deal with, they know exactly how to do. These people that are doing what you do, it's unbelievable the skill set they have to actually create something from nothing.
Right.
And then in their own personal life, they're like not doing it. It's like, well, wait a minute. You already know how to do this. Just transfer that skill set over here.
And it gets back to, one of the, and you reiterated this when I listened to your book while I was working out, by the way,
there you go. Attaboy. It's a double wins.
Yeah. Double win. And, but I can live with a lot of things, but I can't live with regret. Yeah. And so for me to be on my deathbed and thinking about, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that.
Yeah.
The structure that you've laid out in the Fantastic Life and then Rocks, Gravel, Sand, it takes discipline, to prepare the spreadsheet or however you want to track it. It takes discipline to get out of bed and go to the gym or go on a hike, or it takes discipline to set up a date night with your wife or to take your kids, to college, or, to do something that may be inconvenient for you. But by developing those skills and tracking them and living them, it puts you in a different place than you would otherwise be. At least that's my experience.
Well, I always question these people that said on your deathbed, you're never going to say that you work too much or you never regret not working enough. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I went through cancer,
Yeah.
and I can tell you, I was 53 years old. I had worked 70 hours a week, to your point, for 35 years. I was not regretting 1 minute of that.
Yeah.
And the reason is because I knew I had a path and I was on my path to do it.
Yeah.
Now it's 11 years later and I've done a lot more, but the idea was I didn't sit there and go, I worked 70 hours a week and that's all I did. I raised 4 kids. I had a great relationship with my wife. You can have all these things.
Yeah.
I'm a grow the pie guy, not, well, if I work 70 hours a week, that means I can't do this other stuff. It's like,
Right.
well, okay, maybe I'm not hanging out at the bar and watching the Stanley Cup finals.
Yep.
Maybe I'm working. Maybe I miss Super Bowls.
Right.
But it's because I was focused on what I wanted to do for my own life, my own fantastic life.
Yep. And those are choices you're making, to
Yes.
have something that you've already set as something you want to achieve. So
it's really interesting. After the talk at advisors, land advisors, I had one of the brokers come and said, I have all these goals and I come home and I'm just so beat up that I sit there and I start playing games. He's a gamer.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, throw the fucking game away, right?
Yeah.
Okay, get over and go. Like, let's go live. I want to live my life. I don't want to live somebody else's life.
Yeah.
So, and I played professional baseball, and I don't watch that many baseball games. Like, it's like every now and then I'll watch a game, but I'm living my life. I'm not trying to live somebody else's.
Right. Right. And let's dive back into some of the concepts you just brought up, and you alluded to it. So with a lot of the guidelines that you've laid out for the fantastic life and the rocks, gravel, sand, how can our listeners take some of that information and apply it into their, let's just say, business life for right now? And here again, a lot of them have checklists, here's how we develop land. But is there anything further that you may want them to think about as it relates to creating more value for their companies, for their businesses, for their clients, be them builders, home buyers, etc.?
I think one of the things that I've realized in life, when I had 4 kids, the first 3 kids, or the first 2 were pretty athletic, and I remember they were getting recruited for their sports. And I was watching the colleges, and my son get a nice hit, or my daughter would, she was a volleyball player, she'd do something good. And then my 4th kid came along, and they were okay athletes, they were good athletes, but my 4th kid she's the 4th winningest player in NCAA history. So she, in beach volleyball. So she had this incredible career. And I just remember the coach that recruited her at LSU said, it's not what she does the best, it's what she does on everything else. And I said, oh, this is so powerful to me.
Yeah.
It's like, she was really, really good blocker. And it's like, for your clients, there are things that you do that are strengths. Magnify those strengths. That's what gravel is all about. If you look at the process of crushing gravel, you should do more and more of what you absolutely love and you're passionate about every single day. Right. And if you're really good at this piece of your business, how do you expand that piece? So I now am living 75, 85% of my life is all unique ability stuff that I'm in, right? So it's strategic coach concept. That's something that I'm great at, or that I'm really passionate about. Yep. So I'm really passionate all day long, and I'm really good at what I do. And so I've expanded that. So I would say to your customers, like, okay, let's take this and say, this is what I do on my business life, and I'm really good at it. how can I transfer that? I was just alluding to that. How do I transfer that in my personal life?
Yeah.
How do I make something? And it doesn't have to be, well, I'm really good at developing lots. It's like, no, let's get inside the process of developing lots. And
Yeah.
what piece are you really good at? So to me, I'm always expanding what I'm really good at, and I'm trying to do more and more what I'm good at. Yes, of course I have weaknesses. I'm trying to, as I get older, I'm delegating all
Yep.
those, right?
Yep.
I don't do anything now that I suck at.
Yeah.
And I've surrounded myself with people who are really good at what I am not really good at.
Yep. Likewise, who, not how, right? I just want
That's
to
right. Who,
focus
not
on
how.
my unique abilities. I'm going to find somebody else to do the things I don't want to do.
Yes.
And I'm not a big modeler. I don't like modeling anymore.
Right.
But I can look at a spreadsheet and say, there's something wrong.
There's the issue. Yep. Yeah.
I
There's
don't
the
need
issue.
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as we if you were someone were to come to you, and I love some of the things that you mentor a lot of folks, and you have a policy, if I can use that, at least to that I heard from the book, on how you mentor people or are willing to take them on. But maybe you want to talk a little bit about that. And then the follow-up question is going to be, if somebody came to you young, intelligent, hungry, uh, professional in the real estate development, let's just call it real estate industry, what would you recommend to them today? So that's kind of a two-part question.
So let's start with the recommendation. So the recommendation is find a mentor. I mean, in our business, this is like a plumbing business. We're tradesmen.
Yeah.
And you cannot read, I've written 7 books, and you should read the books, but you should find a mentor who will spend time with you and coach you on the business. The lot development business, how you find land, it's a craft. There's an art to it. How you finance stuff, that it is not, everybody goes, well, it's 75% loan to value, whatever. I was like, there's an art to this.
Yeah.
And so you learn that by hanging around somebody who's done it for 30 years and who's willing to spend time with you. So I know there's lots of good brokers out there, but they can't coach other people. The best coaches were never the greatest brokers. And I don't think I'm a great broker. I listened to my team, and they were way better than I was. I'm just a blunt force guy, but I can coach the hell out of them.
Yeah.
And so the people come to work. The last 5 runners we've had, Carter, have moved from out of state to Arizona to work for us.
Yeah.
And they say, I'm coming to work for you, Craig, because I want to be mentored, and they understand the value of that.
Right.
So my first recommendation is find a mentor that's going to spend time with you. Number 2, spend the time to learn the business. This is not 6 months and I'm going to go on my own and learn it.
Right.
This is, our runners run 2.5 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And they don't make very much money at all. So they're running 3 years. Why is it? Because it takes time to learn their trade.
Right.
So I spent a bunch of time on that. So if on the recommendation, I don't remember the first part of your question.
Well, it was, you've had somebody, hey, Craig, I hear you run a lot of marathons. Will you help train me?
Me?
Or,
so now, I was sitting
work related as well.
Do the work. That's right. And it's like, go do it. We need, the third thing is you got to get reps.
Yeah.
So I was just with one of our runners. I have 2 runners right now, and I was with them yesterday, and they have 7. My runner has 17 transactions on his TIP right now. His transaction is progress. It's like they're getting reps as runners that a lot of brokers, and now that we have the software, we know they're not even doing 10 deals a year. It's like our runners are coming out and they've done 30 transactions before they're done running for us.
Yeah.
And so we want mentors going to spend time with us. We want to learn the craft, and we learn the craft by doing tons of reps.
And the other thing too, I was just before the podcast on a call with one of our teams, and part of what we do is, and thanks to Zoom right now, it makes it a lot easier to be present, even though it's 2-dimensional or 1-dimensional, with our teams to teach them, and we can bring things up on screens. But what I try to tell them is, as it relates to what we're doing in land development and financing, if you're using the standard form, a lot of attorneys use the standard form, right. A lot of analysis, a lot of financial advisors use a standard model. You get the standard results.
That's right.
I'm not interested in that. I want to know, what is your vision? What is your DOS? And then with that handcraft of a strategy, and the secret sauce is, okay, we have all these different moving parts, whether it's in brokerage or whether it's in land development or special district financing, but how do they relate to one another?
Right.
And how do you move them around and attach them differently to get a different result? And
See
that's
this,
what you're talking about, right?
so there's a really good insight. Taking that and saying, look, this is as we talk about the craft is tying all the pieces in to create something that's greater than the sum of the parts.
Yep, absolutely. And
If you
that
just
takes a long time.
if you translate that into a fantastic life, that's what we're trying to do. We're going to take a work career, a partnership career, a partnership of for life, of developing young kids, my kids, doing really cool shit,
Yeah,
all of that tied together to create and craft our life in a fantastic way that no matter who walks in the room, if you and I want to talk commercial real estate, we can. If we want to talk coach, we can. If we want to talk about hiking in 40 different countries, we can.
yeah,
If we want to talk about grandkids, we can. And that's when I think people get really interested and
right,
interesting.
right. I agree. I agree. Craig, you look back over your 40 years, what's been your greatest learning experience? I
Ah,
mean,
ah,
if you were going to boil it down to one or two, yeah.
yeah, I think um, you mentioned the book I wrote with Bill Lee. Bill's passed, and
Hmm.
Bill and I, it was the craziest thing because Bill, with 1991, we joined, and so I got to know Bill, but he retired, and Bill passed 2 or 3 years ago. Uh, he retired in his 70s, early 70s, and but he really didn't, and he moved to this place, San Luis Obispo, and he was
Hmm.
there about a week. And he called me up and he's, Craig, we're going to buy this in. And I'm like, I'm in. So, like, okay. So we bought this and never made a dime on it. But I was up in San Luis Obispo. I used that every 90 days. So 4 times a year, I'd go up there and hang out with Bill in San Luis Obispo,
Uh-huh.
Morro Bay. And I got to know him really well. And what I learned is I asked Bill, well, hey, um, what do you miss the most about being in brokerage? And you know what Bill said? It was so profound. He's like, I miss the competition.
Oh,
I
really?
miss,
Yeah.
I miss, I miss winning and losing and getting a deal and working on a deal. And I'm like, I'm still in it. Still in the business. And so, what is my greatest learning? My greatest learning is consistently trying to be excellent over a long period of time, which is a definition of grit, is
Hmm.
how you get successful.
Yeah.
How do we just consistently show up every single day, be really good at what we do? And that's been my life all along, is how do I get a little better, show up, give it my best, the next day take a little nap, come back, do it
Yeah.
again. And so if you looked at my reputation is the hardest working office broker, maybe the hardest working broker in the city. It's like that's what I wanted my reputation to be. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't care what you say about Craig, but you're not going to say that he doesn't work hard.
Yeah. You're not
And
going to
so
outwork them. Yeah.
that's right. And so now I've transferred that. You're not going to outlive him,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to have the life better than him.
Right.
And so that's what my passion's been for the last 10 or 15 years is, okay, now do we take this skill set that I learned and just grinding through and being successful at brokerage, and how do I turn it into everything else? And so now I look at my phone and I go through the last 90 days. Every time I go through 90 days of my pictures, I go, man, that's cool.
Yeah.
Man, that was really cool. Oh, that was really cool. Oh, man, I just did that. Wow, that's really
Yeah.
cool. You know,
A lot of
so
cool moments.
a
Sounds like
lot.
you're going to
Oh,
be
it's
getting
like
some more.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this morning. Here, I'll show you this. This is the photo that I took this morning for my
Sunset or sunrise.
sunrise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my sunrise this morning. Literally took it this morning.
So, Craig,
It's
tell
cool.
everybody about your 200
Sun-
sunrises or
yeah.
whatever
So
it is now.
yeah. So I want to be outside. I mean, I think we need to be outside. We're animals and we should be roaming. So I have this goal every year. I want to catch 200 sunrises, and so I start hiking in the morning I'm up before the sun and I'm outside. Most days I'm hiking, and I catch a sunrise. And if it's a really cool sunrise, I take a photo. I have a website called gettingunplugged.com, and you'll see catching hope, catching sunrises, and there's a decade of different sunrises from all over the world. And that's just one of my things. It's like, if I'm catching 200 sunrises a year, then I'm living. That's kind of a milestone for me.
And it's truly amazing what can happen to one's life when you get outside, when you get up, when you start doing. And what I tell everybody, and especially my kids, when they get stressed, I always tell them the solution is in action. Take the action, whatever that is. And the other thing that I say a lot is, and this is a quote, I'm not sure where I got it, but the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah, which I thought.
Yeah,
was
I think
cool.
the Suns coach the last couple of years ago said everything you want is on the other side of hard.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's true.
Yep.
That's what I've been using a lot is I live my life hard, so my life will be easy.
Yeah.
And it's true. The harder I work, the better I feel about myself.
Yep.
So
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Craig, I really want to say thank you for taking the time.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners or any questions haven't asked that I should have?
I think one of the things I wanted to kind of, in our business, land development, learning the business, doing those things, I think these are 10-year decisions. You're not going to be happy the first 3 years of what you do and what we do. You're not, it takes time to learn the business. So the first 3 years, you're actually learning the craft. The next couple of years, you're kind of catching up to the world because there's other people making more money. I remember people making more money when I was just getting my butt kicked. And then about year 7, you start going, man, this is really good. And at 10, you're like, that was a great decision.
Yeah.
And I started looking at longer term decisions. And, Ray Kurzweil, who I follow as a futurist, just came out and said the first person who's going to live to 1,000 is alive today because their technology's extending our life. And so when you look at this life and say, okay, I have a shot at not living to 100, but maybe 120, 30. And if you're young, you might live to 1,000. So that gives you this capability to say, I can get really good at a lot of things. And so why not take the time to learn it? And that's what we tell our runners is this is a 10-year decision. Start playing where you can win is the second thing we start saying. Start playing where you're really good. If you're really good at communicate. And you're really good. People like you, right? I don't think I've never met anybody that say, I really like Carter, right? They do. They like you. So you should be with people all the time because people like you and you're going to get business from that. Yeah. People don't say they like me. They say, I trust Craig. He's super focused. I'm going to use him. Yeah. They like me, but it's like they like him because he's like, you're not going to get, you walk away tired. and so I think we want to play where we can win. I think we want to make long-term decisions and we want to just keep going.
Yeah. And don't give up, before the miracle happens. It does take a lot of work. It will take you longer than you think, but keep on trudging that road to happy destiny or whatever you want to call it. And you will get there. And, so Craig, I want to just say thank you very, very much for taking the time. I want to let our listeners know that in the show notes, I will have links to Craig's contact information, his books. And if you've enjoyed the Land to Lots podcast, I really encourage you to share it with other members of your team. Thank you for your time.
You have been listening to the Land to Lots podcast with Carter Froelich. Follow us wherever you find your podcast to never miss a new episode.